welcome to my podcast where I discuss the origins of all sorts of things. I'm your host, Danny Payne, and this is On the Origin of Everything. Today I'm talking about Vegas, baby. Las Vegas is one of the most popular vacation destinations in the United States, known for its bright lights, resorts, spectacular shows, fine dining, even roller coasters, and of course, the gambling. Unofficially known as Sin City, what happens here stays here, Las Vegas is home to almost 700,000 people, and it receives 40 million visitors each year. But if you look on a map, Las Vegas is sort of in the middle of nowhere, in a desert valley. It's actually part of the Mojave Desert, and only 100 miles from Death Valley, the hottest place on Earth. It gets only 4 inches of rain each year, so what's a city of that size with so many attractions doing in such a desolate, inhospitable place? Let's get into it. Las Vegas wasn't always so dry. It used to be a marsh. 3 freshwater springs that ran into 2 large pools. You wouldn't know from looking at it now, but it was a literal desert oasis surrounded by grassy meadows. There's been a human presence in southern Nevada for over 10,000 years, made evident by petroglyphs found in the region's canyons. The Paiute tribe inhabited the area as early as 700 CE, and the first European to scout that area was Rafael Rivera in 1821 on an expedition to open up a trade route between New Mexico and California as part of the Old Spanish Trail. Rivera was the one to name that place Las Vegas, meaning the meadows. In the 1840s, U.S. President John Tyler sent a group of scouts in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers into that area to take notes and scope it out as he was expecting a war with Mexico. One of those explorers was John C. Fremont, after whom the Fremont District in Las Vegas is named. This Fremont guy did a lot of stuff. He was a military officer, a map maker, explorer, governor, senator. He helped settle the West in many ways. He was instrumental in the conquest and development of California, and he even ran for president in 1856 as the first ever candidate for the brand new Republican Party. He also got rich during the gold rush. The dude was on fire. It's no wonder why they were naming places after him. So, it's the 1840s, and in 1848 the area went from Mexican territory to U.S. territory, and not much happened until 1855 when Brigham Young sent a group of Mormon settlers there. They weren't there very long, but they did build a fort that was taken over by a man named Octavius Gass after the Mormons abandoned it in 1858. Octavius Gass, great name, turned it into a ranch in 1863, and its main purpose was to serve weary travelers. So as early as 1860s, Las Vegas was a destination for travelers to stop, eat, and rest during their long journey on the Old Spanish Trail. I've actually seen part of this trail recently when I was in Colorado. It's nothing remarkable, just a dirt trail with a sign that says Old Spanish National Historic Trail. But it was still cool to imagine people on horses and wagons traveling on that very path and eventually reaching Las Vegas. In 1902, the railroad bought Octavius Gass's ranch and turned it into a way station when they built the rail to go right by there in 1904. That's a pretty great stop on the rail line as it served as a water stop for the steam train, what with all the spring water and all. So once Las Vegas became a rail stop, it began to be platted and land began to be auctioned off for development. By 1905, Las Vegas already had over 100 buildings, including hotels and stores and stuff. U.S. Senator William Clark was the one to auction off the land, and he advertised it with an offer that if you bought land there, you'd get a refund on the train fare that you paid to get there. One newspaper quoted him saying, "Get into line early, double your money in 60 days. That's very Vegas, isn't it? This Clark guy also nailed down water rights for the whole area so he could assure prospective buyers that they would be provided with water and sewer systems, which was a very attractive promise. 3,000 people showed up to participate in the auction, and lots along Fremont Street went for twice their initial value. One of those lots, which sold for $1,750, is where the oldest hotel in Vegas sits, the Golden Gate. Their address is 1 Fremont Street. Just one. The first telephone in Las Vegas was installed at that hotel too. The phone number? Also just one. It opened in 1906 with electric lighting, ventilation, and steam heat radiators. A local newspaper called it first class, but room and board was only $1 per night. That's like $35 today. So this first class hotel on 1 Fremont Street had the first phone in Las Vegas, with the phone number being 1, was also $1 per stay. The Golden Gate Hotel housed prostitution and gambling like many Western rail towns did, but in 1910, Nevada outlawed gambling. Nevada, the state that's basically synonymous with gambling, outlawed it. Not just for a little bit, but for 21 years. It was illegal until 1931. So let's back up a bit. In 1861, the territorial legislature prohibited all forms of gaming. Nevada became a state in 1864, and in 1869 they legalized gambling as it would generate a lot of revenue for the state. So why did they suddenly go back on that? Women. The Women's Civil League and the Anti-Gambling League of Reno lobbied feverishly to repeal the gambling laws on moral grounds, trying to clean up the state to be more respectable. And it worked. But the stock market crashed, mining production had slowed down as well, then there was a severe drought in all of Nevada, so gambling money started looking pretty enticing. In 1931, a bill was passed to legalize gambling in Nevada again. But how did Las Vegas survive during those non-gambling years? Not only were there 21 years of no gambling, but prohibition overlapped some of those years too. No gambling from 1910 to 1931, and no alcohol from 1920 to 1933. Seems like that would have decimated Las Vegas. Well, obviously, drinking and gambling just went underground, with speakeasies and bootleggers, just like it was across the whole nation during Prohibition. But there were arrests made, and the feds did shut down several casinos. And if you read accounts from judges and law enforcement, they say they led the nation in cracking down on illegal alcohol production, distribution, and consumption. While other sources say Las Vegas was an attractive place to be during Prohibition because of its lax enforcement of liquor laws. The fact is that Prohibition on alcohol lasted 13 years and Prohibition on gambling lasted 21 years, and that's a long time to effectively enforce those two things. That's a lot of days in a row that you'd have to patrol every inch of Las Vegas to make sure no one took a swig of booze or placed a bet. When arrests were made, it was here and there. Lots of investigating and lots of lead-up went into finally coordinating a trip to Las Vegas to take out some major players, and then things went back to business as usual in Las Vegas. But something else that helped Las Vegas stay populated during those somewhat restrictive years was Nevada's quick divorce laws. A quick divorce in Nevada meant you could file for divorce, uncontested, as long as you resided in the state for 6 months. That convenient divorce law drew people in and kept people there. So gambling was legal again in 1931, and that same year, construction began on the Hoover Dam about 30 miles east of Las Vegas, drawing thousands of workers that poured into the city to visit casinos and showgirl venues on Fremont Street, the only paved road in Las Vegas at the time. Once the dam was completed in 1936, it provided cheap hydroelectricity to power the many bright lights of Las Vegas. The dam also provided much-needed water to the city. Those springs weren't going to cut it. I was surprised to see that those springs are still there, by the way. They're on the National Register of Historic Places and part of the Springs Reserve. A little more on the impact of the dam. First of all, it wasn't called the Hoover Dam yet. It was called the Boulder Dam after Boulder Canyon. When the dam was announced, Las Vegas hoped to be the town that would house the workers and also benefit as the location for the manufacturing and other industries related to the major project. But unfortunately, it was decided by the Secretary of Interior that a whole new town would be built closer to the construction site for the 5,000 workers. The government said they wanted the workers to live in, quote, a wholesome American community of flowers, schools, and playgrounds, instead of Las Vegas, which they called, quote, a boisterous frontier town. Also, the major businesses that would support this project saw that Las Vegas lacked the proper infrastructure and chose to go elsewhere. Yet another misfortune. Even still, Las Vegas was growing rapidly at this point. In 1930, the population was only 5,200, but a year later, in 1931, when they began building the dam, the population grew to 7,500. That's still a small town, but a 44% population increase in only 1 year is nothing to sneeze at. The federal spending for the Hoover Dam was $171 million, and Las Vegas saw a lot of that, capturing $70 million of it by 1939. Las Vegas also lobbied to have the dam workers get paid in US dollars instead of scrip that would only be good in Boulder City. Boulder City was the wholesome town they built specifically for the workers. And in case you're a normal person alive today and you're not familiar with the term scrip, it's a form of payment that can only be used at certain places, like a gift card, instead of cash that's good anywhere. This was common practice for mining operations. Miners would get paid in scrip that was only good at the company stores of the issuing mines. A script was made of paper or metal, like a coupon or a token. So it was a huge move for Las Vegas to make sure those damn workers could get paid in real dollars instead of some tokens that would be useless at the casinos. The Hoover Dam itself became a tourist attraction even while it was still being built. In 1932 alone, 100,000 people visited the construction site. It's estimated that in the 1930s, 75% of people that visited the dam also visited Las Vegas. Another huge boost for the growth of the city. So what about the Strip? We've been talking about old downtown Las Vegas all this time. The Strip isn't even in the city of Las Vegas. It's in an unincorporated town adjacent to Las Vegas called Paradise. In 1941, the first hotel and casino opened on what would become the Las Vegas Strip in Paradise, Nevada. It was built just outside the city limits of Las Vegas on purpose to avoid municipal taxes. This first hotel and casino was called El Rancho Vegas, and other hotels soon followed. At this point, we're still pretty far from the Las Vegas we know today, though. Who do we owe for transforming Las Vegas from a small, rugged Western gambling town to the absolute spectacle that it is today? The Mafia. New York mob bosses Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello sent Bugsy Siegel to Las Vegas to establish the first of many gangster-financed gambling houses there. Vegas was an attractive place for the Mafia to establish legitimate, profitable businesses. On December 26, 1946, Bugsy Siegel opened The Flamingo on Highway 91, which would become the Las Vegas Strip. He named the Flamingo after his girlfriend Virginia Hill, whose nickname was the Flamingo because she had red hair and long legs. Siegel would be killed only 6 months after the grand opening of the Flamingo on suspicion of skimming profits. The Thunderbird Hotel and the Desert Inn soon followed. 3 resort hotel casinos on the Strip, all owned and operated by the Mafia. But that was only the beginning. In 1952, the Sahara and the Sands. In 1955, the Riviera and the Dunes. In 1956, the Fremont and the Hacienda. In 1957, the Tropicana. And in 1958, the Stardust. The Stardust was the home base of the Rat Pack. If you're unfamiliar with that name, it was a group of A-list singers like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Judy Garland, Sammy Davis Jr., and many others you've definitely heard of. Imagine being the Mafia, building resort after resort for leisure and gambling and drinking and all manner of luxuries and pleasures, and then on top of that, you host regular performances by the biggest stars of the time. This was the place to be. Booking top talent at their hotel casinos attracted tourists from all over the place. They turned Las Vegas into the entertainment capital of the world. Vegas, man. If you're interested in this topic, there's tons of information out there that doesn't have to do with origins, so I didn't cover it here, but knock yourself out. Look up the history of the Mafia in Las Vegas, read up on the old Spanish Trail, and what the heck the Mormons were doing in Las Vegas in the 1850s. Prohibition is a fascinating topic too. Go nuts! But that's all on the origin of Las Vegas. Stick around for part 2 right after this. This episode is brought to you by Nothing. To help keep ads off this show, consider donating by clicking the Patreon link in the show notes, or by going to patreon.com/ontheoriginofeverything. Another way you can support this show is by giving it a 5-star rating and review, or by following it, or sharing it. Let's build a community of people that are curious and always learning. Now, back to the show. Part 2 is on the all-you-can-eat buffet. If you're new to this idea, it's a restaurant model where you pay one price to serve yourself as many times as you want from a selection of food items. Growing up, my hometown had a Golden Corral. That name always felt to me like a subtle insult to its customers. A corral? Really? Come stuff yourself with our wide selection of food presented in trough-like rows in our corral. The Golden Corral and its fierce competitor, the Platinum Pigpen. It's not super surprising that a country that ranks high on the most obese in the world list would give birth to the food baby that is the all-you-can-eat buffet. So let's dig in, shall we? The word buffet is of course French, and its original meaning is the piece of furniture that we still call a buffet or a china buffet. Not because it's Chinese, but because it holds your expensive china. The word buffet dates back to the early 1700s, meaning cupboard, basically. By the end of the 1700s, the English were using the word buffet to refer to a refreshment bar, which was a table set off to the side with an assortment of foods for guests at a public or private event. It's a short journey from that definition of buffet to what it came to mean. It just scaled up in size over time. Now, the Swedes were doing the smorgasbord thing possibly as early as the 14th century. It started out as just bread and butter, served to unexpected hungry travelers, and it evolved to include more items like fish, cheeses, and cold meats. They introduced the smorgasbord to the world at the 1939 World's Fair in New York. But the all-you-can-eat buffet originated in no other place than Las Vegas. That's how these two topics are connected. Herb McDonald of Edmonton, Alberta, was a publicist in Las Vegas, booking acts at El Rancho Vegas in the 1940s. As I mentioned earlier, El Rancho Vegas was the first resort on what would become the Las Vegas Strip. One night, Herb was working late and got hungry, so he went to the kitchen and brought out a handful of ingredients to make himself a sandwich, and this attracted customers who were there late gambling. Herb realized this could be an effective way to draw more customers and keep them gambling longer, especially late at night after the headlining shows were over. On November 20th, 1946, El Rancho Vegas debuted the Midnight Chuck Wagon, which served an all-you-can-eat buffet from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., so just 3 hours. I have to confess that I didn't know what a chuck wagon was. In my defense, I wasn't born in the 1800s. So if you're like me, an average human being, and don't know either, I'll tell you. A chuck wagon was literally a wagon, a horse-drawn covered wagon, used as a mobile kitchen on the prairies by and for cowboys. It was like a truck stop for cowboys. These chuck wagons were often run by retired cowboys who could no longer handle the grueling days of rounding up cattle all day long. And why chuck? Were they serving chuck roasts or something? That was my guess, but nope. The dude that invented this kitchen wagon was named Chuck. Charles Goodnight, Texas cattleman, converted a surplus army wagon into basically a food truck back in 1866. That's where we got chuck wagons, and that's why Herb McDonald named his little buffet at the El Rancho Vegas the Midnight Chuck Wagon. They later changed the name to the Buckaroo Buffet that was 24 hours, and this kicked off the buffet phenomenon in Las Vegas. So, the Swedes introduced the smorgasbord to America at the 1939 World's Fair, and a few years later, Herb McDonald opened the first all-you-can-eat buffet in Las Vegas. Almost 80 years have passed and America's heart, health, and waistline has never been the same. I do love a good buffet though. I wish every restaurant gave you the option of ordering a little portion of a bunch of stuff on their menu. Maybe that's because I'm indecisive, and I want to try a little bit of everything. But only buffets do that, and that's why I like them. And that's all for today. I hope this episode piques your interest toward a bunch of other topics. That's the beauty of learning new things. You realize there's a bunch more to learn. I love it. Thanks for listening, and until next time, so long. Research, music, and production was all done by Jezere Wilson. This podcast is listener-supported, owned and operated by Jez and myself under the On the Origin of Everything LLC in the United States. All rights reserved. We can be reached via email at info@ontheoriginpod.com.